continued development. And according to reports, US President Donald Trump had privately encouraged Ukraine to step up deep strikes on Russian territory, even asking President Volodymyr Zelenskyy whether he could strike Moscow if the US provided long-range weapons. The conversation took place during a July 4th call between both of the leaders following Trump's phone call with Vladimir Putin a day earlier. Trump reportedly signalled his backing for the idea, saying the strikes would make them feel the pain and force the Kremlin to the negotiating table. The discussion reportedly led to a list of potential weapons for Kyiv being shared by the US side with Zelenskyy in Rome last week. Well, Mark, lots to unpack here, of course. Firstly, I want to caution that these are reports, of course. We wait for confirmation from either side to confirm that these discussions have taken place, if that confirmation ever comes through. But looking at the reports and believing them on somewhat face value, do you think that this shift with Ukraine targeting Moscow and longer-range strikes into Russia, do you think that would have the desired effect of ending this conflict sooner, or could it rile Russia up and lead to more provocation, in your opinion?
In my opinion, we've been poking the bear since 1989. That is, in my opinion. Others, of course, would disagree. I mean, one of the reasons why Putin went into Georgia in 2005 is because Georgia was on a preferred list of joining NATO. That's why, respectfully, I say we have to look at history. Am I defending his reactions in 2022? No. But on the other hand, we then have to turn around and say, why were people then provoked? If we look at the Crimea and the Donbass, and we look at Russian speaking, we look within Ukraine turning around and not wanting people to speak Russian, coming against them in that regard, there has been a long build-up. In regard to these reports, frankly, I hope that they are not true whatsoever, because it then adds to the provocation. And there are, I am sure, missiles and armaments, of course, that are then directed at the US, that could then do damage as well. That's the last thing that we would want to see on both sides. Even though I will say this to you, Thomas, there is, to me, I feel within Europe, within the UK, there is this, I feel there's provocation in regard to a wider war. It would then, some people would call it conspiratorial, but it then would then suit people. If you are then in an economic crisis, an economic downturn, then history have constantly said, well, then we're revert to war. And the UK government has been doing, and the UK, even with previous governments within the Conservative, has been doing saber rattling for far too long. There is technology. If Iran, not wanting to bring up another subject in some ways, but if Iran is then wanting to develop ballistic missiles and have the capability to then travel thousands of miles to then hit America, God forbid, then it's going to be, there is no doubt that other countries, Russia, would also have that technology and that capability as well. As I say, without constantly sounding as I'm repeating myself on this, Thomas, I hope that those reports are unfounded, and in many ways, until we could see that and proof of that, then we could then comment.
Yes, absolutely, Mark. Stay with us once again. We are going to stay in Europe